I'm James Rule. Welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast, where we help existing and aspiring leaders find clarity, build resilience, drive performance, and enhance fulfillment. Body language. That's the theme of today's podcast. It's another one of our Leadership Essentials episodes. And when it comes to things like body language, it's easy to roll the eyes and think, what's the relevance of this? This feels a bit peripheral to me. And actually, I would argue quite the contrary. Your body language plays a part in every speech you give, every meeting you conduct, every interaction you have. Body language is literally with you in every element of your leadership. And hopefully when I frame it like that, it becomes absolutely imperative that you have a high degree of focus on your body language and what it is actually doing for you. And as ever, I want to just pull out a quote to kick us off. This comes from Joe Navarro, a former FBI counterintelligence agent who specialized in nonverbal communication. And this quote really piqued my interest. What you do speaks so loudly that what you say cannot be heard. Now, you've probably heard that science about how quickly people make their first impression on you, that it's in a matter of seconds. And when you actually break that down, whether you believe that or not, the science is out there and it's something that gets repeated over and over again. So it seems almost incomprehensible that people are making their mind upon their first impressions, often within seconds. Well, you haven't had time to speak, you haven't had time to get your laptop out, you haven't had time to launch into your presentation. So what do you have? Well, it's very much around appearances and equally your body language. So if I was to frame the core reasons of why body language is so important, I think one, it creates the first impression. Everywhere you go, everybody you meet, every interaction you have, people are watching you. And your body language sends a message. I think in the vein of sending a message, the second core area that I'd like you to reflect on is it inspires confidence. It creates a sense of calm, particularly important in times of challenge and adversity. And the third key area is it's good for you. It's scientifically proven that confident power poses can help reduce the flow of cortisol, the stress hormones in your body. And that's one of the actionable takeaways that I'll discuss towards the end of this podcast. So when you step back, do you want to enhance your first impressions? Do you want to lead and create a sense of calm and confidence in those people around you? And do you want to do something that helps reduce the flow of stress hormones and cortisol in your body? And just to underpin those benefits, another quote that talks to me is from Amy Cudley, a social psychologist, and she said that our nonverbals govern how other people think and feel about us. They also govern how we think and feel about ourselves. I think that encapsulates those three core benefits particularly well. So let's pull out some historical leaders, people that you will have heard of, and if you haven't heard of, you will be able to research. Because every leadership essential I talk about comes from a lived life experience. That's so important to me. What did I experience during my 10 years as a leader, both in the sporting world, but particularly in the leadership roles of being a CEO? So I will not share anything in the Leadership Essentials series that I haven't felt a real benefit of displaying and delivering myself. Equally, as those of you that have listened to multiple episodes are probably tired of me saying, I get the privilege, and it is a true privilege, of interacting with hundreds of leaders each and every year all around the world, both in group settings, mastermind discussions, and one-to-one coaching and mentoring. So I'm getting to see what drives, what creates high performance. How do we sustain it? And what are the traits? And these essentials are universally visible in those high performing leaders. So I bring them to you from a sense of authenticity, from a sense of lived life experience, not from a position of preaching theoretical rhetoric. These are things that I genuinely, wholeheartedly believe can enhance your leadership impact, your performance, and subsequently your level of fulfillment. Now, apologies for the repetition for those of you that listen frequently to the podcast, but for those of you that might be listening for the first time, my background was in professional sport. I was fortunate to play professional rugby union in the UK and over in France. I also had the blessing of working in professional sport as a CEO across 2 different sporting franchises. So sport is something that's dear to me, that I'm passionate about, and therefore I will always find examples of leadership within the sporting context. But fear not, these examples translate very much into the business world, and I will also pull out a business example and also a historical leadership example, because I think it's important to paint pictures and to bring these traits to life with instantly recognizable characters, and I will do that with this very notion of body language. So when you think of sport, a couple of people that come to mind for me in the world of tennis: Serena Williams and Roger Federer. Anybody that was fortunate enough to watch them play knew they had a presence, an aura. Serena Williams would always stand tall. She would be physically dominant on that court, and I think her body language gave her a competitive advantage. Even when she was struggling, when she was out of form, she had a presence. Roger Federer, slightly different but equally intimidatory, was very calm, very composed. I'm not a tennis expert, but I watched him play a lot, and I don't think I ever saw him lose his cool, become emotional, volatile. And that in its sense is intimidating. He's got everything in order. He can't be rattled. And the way he conducted himself had an air of calm and an air of confidence, which is, as I say, truly intimidating to the opponent. Bringing it back to the world of rugby, there are so many examples of how body language can lead to a competitive advantage. And I always remember listening to Sir Ian McGeechan, the coach of the British Lions. It's going back a long way now, back into the late 90s. But he talked about the physical presence of the captain he picked, Martin Johnson, coming up to play against the physicality of the South Africans. He wanted a captain that when he stepped out of the dressing room to do the coin toss pre-match, had a physical presence that would match that renowned physicality of the Springboks. So there are numerous examples within the world of sport. I'm pulling out some of those icons. When you think of Tiger Woods in his heyday, he had that outfit, he had that red shirt that he'd put on at the end of tournaments. He was laser focused. He wouldn't interact with people around him. He wouldn't, engage with his playing partners, etc. He had an aura. He had a presence. So all very much around body language. Everything I've spoken about there, I've not talked about their leadership styles, their ability to narrate, their ability to inspire through their words. Obviously, individual sports such as tennis and golf, less relevant, but Martin Johnson wasn't necessarily renowned as a man of many words. He was a man whose physical actions led the way. Now let's bring it into the world of history. I am a huge fan of Winston Churchill. I've read widely around him. There have been multiple films now produced, The Darkest Hour, etc. I just have the utmost respect for how somebody can lead through such intensity, where we're way beyond the business pressures that most of us deal with, life and death situations. The very future of the United Kingdom was within his hands. An air of despondency all around him, a country whose morale was wobbling, senior leaders around him who were advocating surrender. And running through that, he was also wrestling with his own depressive condition and the black dog, as he called it, that would come across him. So against that context, to still have that inspirational body language and that inspirational rhetoric when he made a speech makes his leadership truly inspirational, in my opinion. So let's drill it down into body language. There was widespread damage being wreaked across the country by the Blitz and the bombing campaigns of the German Luftwaffe. And Winston Churchill would make visible appearances within the streets. He would walk through the rubble. He would stand tall, that bowler hat in place, the cigar often in his hand or in his mouth. And his presence inspired confidence. It inspired a belief. It created a sense of hope. And when you hear of respected and renowned leaders within business, thankfully, they're not having to deal with the same horrors that Winston Churchill was dealing with, but they are looking for ways to engage. And when you read around someone like Howard Schultz and his role that he played within Starbucks, people often talk about his body language, his demeanor. He would come out from behind the lectern when he was making presentations. So again, that's something that you can reflect on. Often we're very nervous and fidgety. We stand behind a lectern for support, or we keep our notes in our hand, or we're very rigid. Well, that conveys a message. Being able to relax, to move, to be around your people, whether you're giving a speech or whether you're touring a facility, an aspect of your business, a ward if you're in hospitals, a manufacturing plant might be relevant, or just the wider office. How you conduct yourself in those areas will inspire people. As is my theme and my structure of these episodes, I always like to wrap things up by diving into some actionable takeaways that you can take into your day-to-day world and implement to enhance your leadership impact. And before we dive into those, another great quote that I think just anchors in the power of body language comes from Deborah Bull, who said, "We had body language before we had speech." And apparently 80% of what you understand in a conversation is read through the body, not the words. So there are multiple examples, quotes, I've pulled out 2 or 3 here already, that frame the importance of this. So I'm sure if you're still with me at this point in the episode, you no longer need convincing that this is a key aspect of your leadership style. And now it's a case of jumping into those takeaways so that you can begin to reflect on how you can make a tangible difference to your body language. So tip number 1, stand tall, shoulders back. Good posture equals authority and confidence. It's as simple as that. So whether you're giving a presentation or simply walking into a room, remember what we said at the top of the episode about first impressions. You know yourself. Walk into a room slumped, shoulders down, hunched over, versus stood tall, shoulders back, chest out. It makes you feel different and it makes people perceive you differently. Tip number 2, maintain calm eye contact. Now, I mean calm. I'm not asking you to eyeball everybody without blinking. That's a little bit strange, weird, and intimidating. But when you are able to meet people's gaze, hold it before moving on, it's a form of body language that conveys calm, that conveys confidence. And these are the traits that ripple into your wider team. If your eyes are flicking everywhere, then it creates a sense of nervousness and fear and an inability to connect with those around you. So be mindful of how you use your eye contact. The third tip is match your gestures to your words. Now, I might be wanting to exude confidence and calm, but if my gestures are fidgety and anxious, and then what do people receive? I may want to convey that sense of confidence and calmness, but people receive something completely different. So try and avoid those nervous, fidgety habits. Often people have a pen and they click, 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 click. It's super distracting and it doesn't create a particularly powerful message. And equally, try and avoid those defensive, arms crossed, closed off body language elements, because that breaks down that ability to connect and build rapport with people. The fourth tip is control your breathing. When pressure rises, our breathing quickens. You'll have experienced it personally, and I'm sure you'll have seen it in people around you. So before you step into a difficult discussion or make a difficult call or jump onto a virtual meeting, taking a few deep breaths can calm and can create a different aura, a different way that you will present yourselves. Equally, you might find stress levels rising, pressure rising within a meeting, within a face-to-face interaction. Just taking a moment to take a deep breath helps reset, helps calm you, which will then influence the body language that you display. When stress rises, breathing quickens, our body language becomes tense, and it's all being communicated to those around us, both in terms of our first impressions, if it's the first time you've met, or in terms of the level of calm and composure we have, because people want to see calm and composure in their leader, because that gives them a sense of, okay, she's okay. I believe in what she's saying. Let me go and do my job. But if people say, oh, she's frantic, she's fidgety, she's anxious, she won't look me in the eye, her breathing's quicken, then it creates a little bit of a sense of panic, like, oh, well, if our leader's not comfortable, then I can't be comfortable either. The next tip, and one I absolutely love, is practice power poses. Don't let your cynical side take over here. Experiment with it. If I asked you to stand up now and give me the body language and the presence of an anxious, miserable, depressed person, how do you stand? How do you look? If you're doing it, I imagine shoulders are down, posture's low, chest is sunken. There's a different timbre to your voice if you're speaking. It's a bit more flat and monotone. Our body language and our words can put us into that immediately disempowered space. Now, if I asked you to stand and represent the body language of a confident, high-performing, impactful individual, immediately your chest is out, your shoulders are back, your chin is up. And if I asked you to speak in the manner of that individual, your tone is different. It's more powerful. So we know that deep down, subconsciously, you know that. But you also know how you would interpret that. The former, you'd think that person's flat, maybe needs some help, some support. They seem a bit down and depressed. And equally, the latter is, wow, that person seems pumped up, powerful, connected. They know what they're doing. They're going to go and do it. I believe in them. So what's a power pose? Well, if you're about to make a presentation, take a moment before you step in the room. Find a power pose. As ridiculous as this might sound, the sort of Superman-esque pose, shoulders back, hands on hips, chin at a ridiculously exaggerated angle. Think about things that will pump you full of the sort of positivity and that energy. Now you might say, I'm not doing that. I'm fully appreciative. You can't stand at the front of a job interview in a room or in front of a board that you're presenting to, a senior group in your organization, doing a raft of random poses. But you can do it in advance. You can do it within the privacy of the restroom before you step out into that presentation. If you're about to present online, you can do it off camera. I'm no shame in saying I'll frequently stand up, just jog on the spot, just move my body to change that physiology and to get into a couple of those power poses, just to pump the energy through, because that can make a significant difference. Now, tying in with this, I referenced one of Amy Cuddy's quotes earlier on. She's done some Harvard research on the very notion of power posing, and she's on record of talking about how it definitively lowers cortisol, our stress hormone, and also increases testosterone, that confidence hormone. So we don't want to be flooded with stress hormones. We'd far rather have those hormones working for us and impacting our sense of confidence. And if you don't think there's anything in that, think of sportsmen. Think of the boxers when they're walking into the ring and they're pumped up, they have the music on that they like, and there's a sense of movement to them that you're like, oh, yeah, these guys are ready. You can see that in sports. Equally, you've seen somebody perhaps sizing up a putt to win a major championship, and you can feel the nerves and the negativity, and they go on and miss the putt. So you'll be able to observe how body language works. We've got to take control of that and not allow our nerves to suppress that body language and make it a self-fulfilling prophecy that we don't achieve what we want. We've got to go the other way, reduce those stress hormones, enhance those confidence hormones, and then guess what? As we've been saying all the way through the episode, you have a different level of impact when you're presenting. The presentation is so much more well received. If you're delivering a message, it's so much more well received. Irrespective, the tension, the adversity, the challenge that might be the backdrop to that message, as we said at the start of the episode with Winston Churchill, your body language helps change the tone, and it helps change people's download and receipt of the messages you are delivering. Long explanation on this one, but I am extremely passionate, as I said, about the impact of this. If you've never tried it, try it. Let me know how you get on. The next tip is using silence and stillness. When you're nervous, you don't pause for breath. You just keep talking at 100 miles an hour and you fill every gap. When you're confident, you're happy with a pause. And actually, leaving some pauses ties back into creating this sense of command, control, being in control of the situation and control of your emotions. So don't fear using pauses. Don't fear stillness. I know we're drifting into words here and you say, well, is this about our words or our body language? But actually it all ties together. Because when you're talking really quickly and it creates a sense of tension and you're fidgeting and your body's tense, if you're able to stop and allow pauses to create an impact, then it naturally relaxes you and your body language aligns accordingly. The next tip I want you to consider is mirror your team subtly. Now, the key word here is subtly. You'll have heard about the power of mirroring and building connection and rapport. However, I'm very keen to stress you can take this too far and become known as a weirdo. If every time your counterpart, the person you're meeting, scratches the nose, you do it excessively, they cross the legs one way, you do it, they cross it, they do it the other way, they lean in, they lean back, you lean back, it becomes extremely uncomfortable. It's the same as we're talking about calm eye contact. If you combine mirroring body language with an intense, unblinking stare down, then pretty quickly you're going to probably be reported to HR at best or intimidate all the best performers out of your business. So joking aside, subtle eye contact, subtle imaging. If somebody leans in, yes, you can lean in a little bit. You can develop a bit of rapport. It's not just your words. Your body language does have an impact, but this is used regularly. It's why it's down my list a little bit and why I do stress the need for caution and the utilization of this subtly. That is the key word in this particular tip. And my last tip is check your resting face. Now, some of you will have a wry smile as I say this. Some of you would be great poker players. Nobody can read what you're thinking when they see your face. Some of you would be horrendous because every slight, every contrary opinion being presented is processed on your face. People in the room are left in no doubt when you disagree, when you're irritated by what's being said. Control that. This is part of your body language. Be unreadable in that regard. You don't want to give people the upper hand of knowing when they've pressed your buttons, when they've irritated you, when they've frustrated you, or when they've intimidated you. Having that body language goes a little bit back to the Roger Federer analogy. There were so many times in his career when he was under pressure, no doubt fearful that he was going to lose, searching for a solution. You wouldn't think it looking at his face and his body language. He controlled his emotions. That's far better. We all know it, but we struggle to reach that level of Iceman type situation. We're probably all more likely to have worn our heart on our sleeves, let our face tell a story, and then that triggers something. And then before we know it, we react, and our body language and our words convey a set of messages that in hindsight we wish we hadn't conveyed. So have a look at that resting face. Now, how do I do that, you say? Well, ask people around you. Ask trusted confidence. They'll tell you, you could tell you were furious when such and such said X or Y. Could you? Then you know your resting face isn't doing what you want it to be. Or, how did you interpret that? I couldn't really tell looking at you. You looked pretty composed, but I would imagine you were quite frustrated. That's the sort of feedback you want. So reflect on that. How can you control that resting face? So once again, my aspiration is reiterated that I hope this episode prompts reflection. I hope there's little 1%ers that you can say, do you know, that's a subtle tweak on what I already do. I hope that you have a clear conclusion that body language isn't just a fluffy thing to consider. It is a genuine leadership essential. People are always watching you. They are listening to what you say, but they are also watching how you present yourselves. They're making their mind up about what they think of you as a leader, how competent you are. Why not support what you say and support what you do with a confident, calm body language? Give yourself every opportunity to maximize the connection with the people you lead and the confidence and the calmness that you can inject into them by your presence and your body language. As I always say, I wish you the very best of luck with the implementation, and please do continue to share the feedback of how this works for you. And if I can make one final request in this episode, if you do enjoy the content, I know you'll have already subscribed to the show, but if you could put a rating onto whatever platform you listen, that would be extremely, extremely gratefully received. It helps the algorithms. It helps push the podcast into a wider audience. So whatever platform you're on, there's normally a stars feature that will allow you just to drop some stars on. And if there's somebody in your network that you think could benefit from listening to this content, then please do share it with them. The mission is simple: to help as many people as possible on their journey of growth and development. And there's nobody better placed to do that than you making a recommendation. We all trust the recommendations that come from our friends and colleagues. And if you can help grow that audience and allow us to help more people, then as I say, I would be truly grateful. Thanks for listening to the Lonely Leader podcast. I'd be very grateful if you could share and follow if the content resonates. And if you're looking for additional free resource to support your continued growth and development, then please do check out our social media and website details in the show notes. Remember, quality leadership on the outside must always start within.